Is there a place for beauty in a world that only sees division? Ishria Hawkins wakes before sunrise, her heart brimming with music. She tiptoes past her sleeping familiar out to the garage, transformed, not anger, not fear, just focus. Horsehair meets, catgut fingers dance and notes soar. For one precious hour, Aria's spirit is free. Mommy calls from the kitchen. Aria ven, a desayunar. She packs up her instrument, a thrift store, violin handed down from a tia she never knew. Aria's only inheritance, her most prized possession at school. The hallways prickle. Whispers swirl like dust devils. Aria grips the handle of her case as if it alone keeps her anchored against the storm of sneers. She takes her seat in the back of class, next to her only ally, Harper Sullivan, who flashes a hesitant smile before her eyes fall to her hands. The bell rings. A squat, balding man strides in baton, tucked under his arm. He scans the room with narrowed eyes, lingering a beat too long on the corner where Aria sits. So, who thinks they have what it takes to seize first chair this semester? Mr. Nash taps his baton against his palm. A challenge. A threat area meets his gaze, her chin raised ever so slightly. A nearly imperceptible nod. Not subservience, but defiance cloaked in courtesy. Her fingers ache for her bow, but as she reaches for her, a large, pale hand clamps down, pinning it to the floor. Ethan Wheeler smirks. Oh, I don't think so. Mariachi girl. The first shot fired in a war Aria never wanted but now cannot afford to lose. She swallows hard as a single question echoes in her mind. What would you do to protect the music within you? Aria's knuckles whiten around her case, but she refuses to let Wyatt see her flinch, even as his cronies snicker behind cupped palms, even as Mr. Nash pointedly averts his gaze. She straightens in her chair, shoulders squared. This is her battle to fight, her music to defend. At lunch, Aria seeks solace in the shade of a willow tree, its boughs draping around her like the arms of the abuela. She dimly remembers. She rests her head against the gnarled trunk and closes her eyes. Fragments of melody flicker through her mind. Half-remembered songs her mother once sang, lullabies of longing and lament. Aria's fingers twitch, itching for strings, but she resists the urge to uncase her violin. Not here, where prying eyes could intrude and mock the music pulsing through her veins. Aria. A tentative voice breaks her reverie. She looks up to see Harper standing awkwardly, scuffing one worn sneaker. In the dirt, I just wanted to say. I'm sorry about Wyatt. He's a real pendejo despite herself. Aria feels a smile tug at her lips. Thanks, Harper. I appreciate you saying that. Harper nods, a jerky bob of her chin. Well, I mean it. And listen, if you ever need a practice space, my garage is always open. My parents work late most nights, so... Her words trail off as she fidgets with the hem of her shirt area blinks, caught off guard by the offer, by the glimmer of solidarity in Harper's eyes. She opens her mouth to respond, but the bell shatters the moment Harper startles like a spooked rabbit. I gotta go, but just think about it, okay? And then she's gone, melting into the crush of students, leaving Aria alone with her thoughts and the whisper of an unexpected alliance. Mr. Nash seems to take Wyatt's taunt as a challenge. Suddenly, Aria finds herself the focus of his sharp-tongued critiques and scathing looks, no matter how flawlessly she plays flat-pitchy. Is that supposed to be vibrato or a seizure? Each barb lands like a physical blow, but Aria grits her teeth and plays on. Even when Wyatt accidentally hits her case, sending it skittering across the floor, even when his friends make exaggerated gagging noises, every time she rosins her bow, even when someone scrawls, "Go back to Mexico," on her orchestra locker in permanent marker area squares, her jaw and soldiers on. She has endured worse than schoolyard bullies, and she will not let their hatred poison the music thrumming in her blood one day as she's cutting through the parking lot, heading to Harper's for a clandestine practice session. Aria notices a weathered man in a groundskeeper's uniform, carefully detangling a soda can from a shrub. As she watches, he pockets the trash and gives the abused plant a gentle pat before shuffling onto his next bit of tidying. There's a tenderness to his movements, a respect for even the humblest of living things that snags in Aria's chest. When the man turns, pushing his cart along the sidewalk, Aria catches a glimpse of his name patch, stitched in faded blue thread, Senor B. Ortiz's sudden impulse seizes her, and before she can second-guess herself, Aria raises a hand in greeting. Buenas tardes, senor. The words feel rusty on her tongue, but the man's face crinkles into a surprised smile. Buenas tardes, señorita. He touches the brim of his cap, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Before he continues on his way, Aria remains rooted to the spot, her throat tight with an emotion she can't name. There's a strange comfort in knowing she isn't quite as alone as she feels, that there are others who carry her heritage in their bones, however humble their station. After a month of merciless belittling, Mr. Nash makes a surprise announcement. The orchestra will hold competitive auditions for the coveted showcase solo in front of the entire school and community. The winner will perform at the prestigious statewide Young Musicians concert in the capital areas. Heart leaps at the opportunity. Even as her stomach clenches with nerves, she knows this is her chance to prove herself, to silence the doubters, to show everyone the music that burns within her. But when she scans the audition sign-up sheet, her hopes plummet like stones, because there in bold slashing print is Wyatt Wheeler's name, scrawled like a promise or a threat. Aria wavers, pen poised over paper, dread and determination warring in her gut. Can she really put herself through this? Expose her music, her very soul, to Wyatt's ruthless campaign of sabotage. Her gaze strays to the window and catches on a flash of blue Senor Ortiz patiently unearthing a crushed juice box. Something in his stooped posture, his gentle persistence straightens Aria's spine before she can reconsider. She signs her name on the list with a flourish that feels like defiance. Let them do their worst. She will not back down. Not now, not ever. That afternoon, as she's walking home, clutching her violin case like a talisman, a police cruiser rolls to a stop beside her. Aria's step falters, her breath locking in her lungs. License and registration. The officer's command cracks like a whip. Aria slowly turns, fighting to keep her face neutral. I don't have a license. I'm only 15, the officer cocks his head. Then what's in the case? Aria swallows hard, her grip tightening. It's my violin, sir. I'm in the school orchestra. Likely story. The officer's lip curls. You expect me to believe that? Open it up. Slowly, Aria complies with shaking hands, unzipping the case to reveal her instrument, cradled in faded velvet. See? Just my violin. The officer peers at it, face pinched with suspicion. Humph. Looks pretty fancy for a girl like you. You sure you didn't steal it? Hot tears prick the corners of Aria's eyes. I didn't. It was my Tia's. She left it to me when she died. But the quaver in her voice only seems to sharpen the officer's contempt right. And I'm sure you have proof of that. He shakes his head, hand straying to his belt. I think you better come with me down to the station. We can sort this out there. But as he takes a step forward, hand outstretched, a sleek black motorcycle rumbles up behind the cruiser, its engine growling like a prowling panther. The officer whirls, one hand flying to his holster. The rider cuts the engine and unfolds from the bike, removing his helmet to reveal a face Aria recognizes instantly. Chiseled features, piercing blue eyes, a shock of dark hair. It's him, Stallone. Sylvester. Problem here, officer. His gravelly voice is mild, but there's a dangerous glint in his gaze. The policeman fumbles for words, thrown off balance. Mister. Sylvester, sir, I was just... This girl here, I have reason to suspect. Suspect what exactly? Stallone cuts him off, one eyebrow arched. Last I checked, playing the violin wasn't a crime. He nods at Aria's open case. That's a beautiful instrument you've got there, miss. You must be quite talented. Thank you. Aria doesn't know whether to laugh, cry, or pinch herself. To confirm she isn't dreaming, Stallone Sylvester here, defending her. Against a cop, no less. The officer clears his throat, trying to regain control. Yes, well, be that as it may. Oh, I think it may. Stallone cuts his eyes at the cop, gaze flinty. In fact, I think I'd like to hear her play right now. Consider it a private concert. He winks at Aria, a conspirator's glimmer. If you're up for it, of course, miss. Aria. She blurts, cheeks flushing. Aria Hawkins. And I'd be honored, Mr. Sylvester. Please, call me Sly. He grins, then sobers, pinning the policeman with a look. That is, if the officer has no further objections. The cop wilts under Stallone's unblinking stare. He clears his throat again, feet scuffing the pavement. I suppose that won't be necessary after all. Carry on, miss, just keep that instrument in its case while you're walking, understand? Yes, sir. Aria nods vigorously, hardly daring to breathe, until the cruiser peels away from the curb, leaving her alone on the sidewalk, with one of the most famous men in the world. Well, color me intrigued. Stallone claps his hands together. I can't wait to hear what you can do with that fiddle, and I've got just the place for an impromptu performance. He jerks a thumb over his shoulder. Hop on Aria hesitates only a moment, then marches forward and accepts. The proffered helmet, determined to seize this unbelievable turn of events. With both hands, she straddles the bike behind Sly, adrenaline buzzing through her veins as the engine roars to life beneath them. Where are we going? Stallone flashes her a grin. Over his shoulder. Oh, you'll see. Just hang on tight. As the motorcycle leaps forward, Aria wraps her arms around his waist and succumbs to the soaring swoop in her belly. That feels a lot like hope. The motorcycle weaves through sun-dappled streets, carrying Aria and her unlikely champion toward an unknown destination. But for the first time in weeks, Aria finds she can breathe easily. The suffocating weight of isolation and ridicule lifts from her shoulders, scattered by the rushing wind. All too soon, Sly slows the bike and pulls. To a stop, Aria blinks, taking in the imposing wrought-iron gates, the manicured grounds sprawling beyond. Is this your house? She asks, voice hushed with awe. One of them. Sly shrugs, lips quirked in amusement. He dismounts and offers her a hand. Come on, I've got something to show you. Aria trails after him, wide-eyed and tentative, up the sweeping front steps and into a foyer that could swallow her apartment twice over, but Stallone doesn't pause, leading her deeper into the house, past glimmering rooms packed with art and artifacts. Finally, he throws open a set of double doors, revealing a space that steals Aria's breath. Soaring ceilings, honey-colored wood, perfect acoustics, a private concert. Oh, what do you think? Sly grins at her stunned expression. Will this suit for your debut? Aria nods mutely, overwhelmed. She drifts into the room as if in a dream, fingers brushing reverently over the gleaming piano. The music stands perched expectantly, like dancers awaiting their cue. Well, go on. Then, Stallone settles into a plush armchair. Let's hear what you've got. Inhaling shakily, Aria unzips her case and lifts out her violin as if it were spun from glass. With trembling hands, she tucks it beneath her chin, closes her eyes and begins to play. The first notes emerge timid and uncertain, but as the melody unfurls, Aria forgets her nerves, forgets her audience, forgets everything but the music flowing through her, plaintive and pure. She plays of longing, of heartache, of hope. She plays until her fingers ache and her bow arm burns. She plays until the final note shivers into silence, and only then does she open her eyes, meeting Stallone's awestruck gaze. Aria. He shakes his head at a loss for words. That was incredible. You have a gift. Aria ducks her chin, suddenly shy. Thank you, Mr. Sly. I just... She shrugs helplessly. I just pour my heart into it, I guess. He nods slowly, considering. And all that business. With the cop, does that happen a lot? Aria stiffens, the brief spell of tranquility broken more than I'd like. She admits, voice brittle. It's not always that blatant, but I'm not exactly the most popular girl at school because of your music. Stallone frowns, leaning forward, or because of... He gestures vaguely, encompassing her dark hair, brown skin. The unspoken implications. Aria flinches despite herself, and she looks away, knuckles whitening around her violin. Some people think, because of how I look, that I can't be a classical musician, that I don't belong. Stallone's jaw clenches. Then they're idiots. He growls. Talent like yours? It transcends boundaries, ethnicity. All the small-minded nonsense people cling to when they're afraid of what's different. He rises to his feet, radiating intensity. Listen to me, Aria. You have something special, a light inside you, and you can't let anyone dim that light. Not ever. Aria meets his fierce gaze and feels something kindling in her chest, a flicker of defiant pride. Then she licks her lips, scarcely daring to voice the question, do you think I have a shot at the showcase solo? Stallone barks a laugh. A shot? Honey, if they've got ears and a lick of sense, that solo is yours. No question. But even as Aria basks in his certainty, shadows gather at the edges of her thoughts. Wyatt won't make it easy. She sighs, shoulders curling inward. He's determined to run me out of orchestra entirely. Sly hums thoughtfully. So this Wyatt character, he's got it in for you, huh? Aria nods, throat suddenly thick. Him and half the school, it feels like mocking whispers and spiteful pranks, cruel laughter and crushing silence. An endless barrage meant to break her spirit. Well then, Stallone claps his hands decisively. Sounds to me like you need a plan, a little Rocky-style training montage to get you in fighting shape for this musical showdown. In spite of herself, Aria grins at the idea. Rocky montage, huh? And I suppose you'll be my Mickey. Sly winks, tapping the side of his nose. You bet your bottom dollar, kid, I'll whip you into shape. Get you so prepared, so confident, that by the time audition day rolls around, you'll be untouchable. Aria feels a giggle bubble up in her chest, the sheer absurdity of it all, conspiring with a movie star to outplay her racist bully using tactics from a boxing film. But beneath the laughter, a spark of determination takes root. Okay, she meets Stallone's gaze boldly. Let's do it. I'm in over the... Next week, Aria throws herself into practicing with renewed intensity, but now, rather than snatching secretive sessions crammed into lunch breaks and stolen hours, she marches into the music room with her head high. Daring anyone to challenge her right to be there, she plays the audition piece over and over until the notes pour out of her like water from a spring. She works on her stage presence, her posture, the story she wants to tell with every phrase, and through it all, Wyatt lurks sabotage, his only goal. He accidentally bumps her music stand, scattering sheets across the floor. He loudly belittles her technique, her taste, even her second-hand instrument, whenever Mr. Nash is out of earshot. But Aria grits her teeth and carries on, buoyed by Stallone's support and her own growing conviction that she will not be broken, not by Wyatt, not by anyone. One day, as she's retrieving her spare rosin, from the orchestra room, cubbies, Aria overhears a heated conversation. Echoing from Mr. Nash's office, I'm telling you, man, that mariachi chick, she's trouble. Wyatt's sneering drawl is unmistakable. We need to handle this now, before she gets any big ideas. Mr. Nash's voice is weary, placating Wyatt. I understand you're upset, but I can't just ban a student from auditioning, not without cause. Well then find cause. Wyatt's petulant snap makes Aria's stomach clench. Plant something in her case. Accuse her of stealing. I don't care how you do it. Just get her out of my orchestra. A long beat of strained silence follows. Then Mr. Nash clears his throat uncomfortably. "I'll see what I can do, but I'm not making any promises, and I'd better not find out. You took matters into your own hands. Are we clear?" Yeah, Wyatt grumbles sourly. Crystal Area remains rooted to the spot, ears ringing, pulse pounding. As Wyatt's footsteps approach the door, panicked, she whirls, searching wildly for an escape. But it's too late. Well. Wyatt fills the "Good frame, arms crossed if it isn't Senorita Snoop. Here's something interesting, did you?" Aria lifts her chin defiantly. "Just you, plotting to get me kicked out of orchestra, begging Mr. Nash to make up reasons. Since you can't beat me fair and square." Wyatt's face twists with rage. "Listen, you little—" "Oh, I'm done listening to you." Aria cuts him off, voice shaking but strong. "You're a bully, Wyatt. So scared of anything different that you'll destroy it, rather than open your small, spiteful mind. Well, guess what? I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to place circles around you at that audition. And if you can't handle that, you're the one who doesn't belong in orchestra." Before he can retort, Aria whirls on her heel and stalks out of the music room. Head held high, even as angry tears sting her eyes, she makes it halfway down the vacant hall before her stern mask crumbles, a muffled sob escaping her throat. Without conscious direction, her feet carry her out the back doors, into the neglected courtyard where withered plants droop in their cracked planters. Aria collapses onto a weathered bench, draws her knees to her chest and weeps great, heaving sobs that rack her slender frame. She cries for the unfairness of it all, the hatred and intolerance, the crush of fighting a battle that should never have been hers. To wage, a tentative hand touches her shoulder, and Aria startles badly, nearly. Toppling from her perch, Harper hovers anxiously at her side, looking stricken and uncertain. "Sorry, I didn't mean to sneak up on you, I just—" Harper wrings her hands, cheeks flushed. "I heard what happened with Wyatt, what he said to you, and I couldn't. I couldn't do nothing, not anymore." Dashing the tears from her cheeks, Aria scoots over on the bench, wordlessly inviting Harper to sit. The other girl does, leaving a careful space between them. "I'm sorry, Aria." Harper stares at her hands, voice small. "I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner. It's just Wyatt's family is super tight with the principal, and if I got on his bad side, lost my music scholarship." She trails off, hunching in on herself. Aria sighs, too emotionally wrung out for resentment. "I get it, Harper. Keeping your head down, not making waves. Believe me, I wish I had that luxury." She gives a watery chuckle. "But when you're born with a target on your back, there's really no point in trying to hide, is there?" Harper nods slowly, considering maybe. She ventures after a long moment. "Maybe there's no point in me hiding either. Not if it means leaving you out in the open." Alone, she squares her shoulders, turning to face Aria head-on. "From now on, I've got your back. Screw staying silent and playing. It's safe what Wyatt's doing to you, what this whole school lets him get away with. It's wrong, Aria. It's just wrong." Aria blinks hard against a fresh surge of tears, this time born of gratitude, of relief. "Thank you, Harper." She reaches out and squeezes the other girl's hand. "You have no idea how much that means to me. Truly, Harper." Squeezes back, offering a wobbly smile. "I think I'm starting to get an idea, actually. And for what it's worth, I think you're going to crush this audition. Leave Wyatt and all his stupid cronies gaping in your music. Genius dust." A surprised laugh bubbles out of Aria. "Oh yeah?" She bumps her shoulder against Harper's playfully. "Even with my cheap mariachi violin?" Harper bumps her right back, grin widening. "Especially with your violin. Because unlike some people, you actually have talent, not just an overblown ego and a sense of entitlement." Aria feels the weight on her shoulders lift infinitesimally, shared between her and this unexpected ally. Maybe. She allows herself to imagine, maybe I do have a chance after all. And so, with Harper's support and Stallone's continued mentorship, Aria throws herself into preparing for the audition. With a fervor bordering on obsession, she practices until her Fingertips bleed until the notes haunt her dreams. She refines and polishes, pours her very essence into each phrase, determined that when she takes the stage, they won't just hear her music, they'll feel it in their bones. The day of the audition dawns bright and clear, a mockery of the nerves roiling in Aria's gut. She dresses with shaking hands, in her best blouse and only skirt without holes. Gathers her music, her rosin, her scuffed but gleaming violin, and heads to school for the performance of her young life as she enters the bustling auditorium. Aria scans the crowd desperately, praying for a glimpse of Stallone's distinctive profile. But he's nowhere to be seen. Her heart plummets, even as she chastises herself for daring to hope that a mega celebrity would put his life on hold just to cheer on some teenage nobody at a high school music competition. Harper barrels through the milling students and flings her arms around Aria in a fierce hug. "I'm so glad I caught you before warm-ups. I have something for you." She thrusts a small velvet pouch into Aria's hands, curling her fingers around it insistently. "I know it's not much, but I wanted you to have a little piece of me up there with you." For luck, tilting her palm, Aria lets the contents of the bag spill into her hand, a gleaming quarter, the silver-worn buttery from years of handling. For a long moment, she can only stare at it, throat working around a sudden lump. "My dad gave me that when I was 5, Harper explains, a trifle. Bashfully, for my very first piano recital. She's been my lucky charm ever since, Harper." Aria looks up at her friend, vision blurring. "I can't take this. What if I lose it, or you won't?" Harper cuts her off firmly. "I have faith in you, Aria Hawkins. An endless well of it. So take that luck and go show them what a Latinx queen with a fiddle can do," blinking hard. Aria clutches the coin to her heart. I'll make you proud, Harper, I swear it," with a last fortifying squeeze of her friend's hand. She turns and marches into the fray, lucky quarter nestled in her violin case like a secret talisman against all ills. Aria takes her seat in the front row, instrument clenched in white-knuckled hands, as performer after performer takes the stage. Some are good, some middling nerves and bravado in equal measure, but it's Wyatt who nearly steals her breath. His Vivaldi is flawless, compelling, leaving no doubt of his technical prowess. The audience erupts as he takes his smug bow, and despite herself, Aria's stomach twists with dread. How can she possibly compete with that? With his perfect poise and impeccable pedigree? Maybe this was all a foolish dream. Maybe girls like her aren't meant for gilded stages and glory. But then, as Wyatt's preening applause dies down, Aria feels a prickling along her spine, a whisper soft. Awareness of someone watching her slowly, dazedly. She turns her head, and there, lurking in the shadowed wings, is Senor Ortiz. The wizened janitor meets her gaze, and to her shock, winks broadly, a sly, conspiratorial gesture that somehow loosens. The tangle of fear in her chest allows her to pull a full breath. For the first time all morning, Aria Hawkins. The MC calls from the podium. "You're up on legs," like Jelly. Aria mounts the stage, forces herself to put one foot in front of the other until she stands alone in the blazing spotlight, hundreds of eyes pinned to her every move with trembling hands. She lifts her grandfather's violin to her chin, tucks Harper's lucky quarter under the strings, and tries to still the frantic thrumming of her heart. Her gaze finds Harper in the front row, Stallone still conspicuously absent. She bites back a bitter sting of disappointment, but just as she's resigning herself to facing this crucible alone, the auditorium doors burst open with a bang, framing a figure she'd know anywhere, Sly. The exclamation leaves her in a breathless rush, and in the next instant, Stallone is striding down the aisle. Larger than life and twice as dazzling, he takes a seat next to Harper front and center and meets Aria's gobsmacked stare with an encouraging nod. "You've got this, kid," he mouths, one fist raised in solidarity. "Show 'em how it's done." So she does. With tears in her eyes and joy in her heart, Aria raises her bow and sets it to string the first notes of her song, shimmering through the sudden hush, haunting, ethereal, transcendent, and as the music swells and soars, filling every shadowed corner of the auditorium, Aria loses herself in the melody, in the pure, piercing beauty of it. Gone are the nerves, the naysayers, the sneers. In this shining, suspended moment, there is only Aria and her violin, and the story she's yearned to tell. She plays of hardship, of heartache, of humble beginnings and fledgling hope. She plays of lonely nights and aching fingers, the scorn of cruel classmates and the sting of prejudice. She pours all her pain and passion into the quivering strings until it feels as though her very soul is laid bare, raw and bleeding before the captivated crowd. And then, with a shattering crescendo, it's over, the last notes fading like mist on the dawn. For a long, trembling moment, there is only silence, and then the audience erupts, leaping to their feet in a thunderous standing ovation, whistles and cheers and deafening. Applause all for her, for Aria Hawkins, the mariachi girl with a second-hand violin and a heart full of fire-dazed. Disbelieving, Aria lowers her bow, blinking against the hot rush of tears as she takes in the sea of faces, slack with awe, shining with admiration. Harper is openly weeping, clinging to a beaming Stallone, who looks fit to burst with pride. But it's the sight of Senor Ortiz standing tall in the back of the house, had pressed to his chest in silent salute, that finally breaks Aria's composure. A sob wrenches from her throat, and then she's crying in earnest. Great, gulping gasps of relief and release. She's barely aware of taking her bow, of stumbling from the stage on wobbly knees. The next thing she knows, she's swept into a crushing embrace, enfolded in Stallone's strong arms as he spins her around and around, crowing his congratulations for all to hear. You did it. Aria, you did it. I knew you had it in you. I knew it. Didn't I tell you? Didn't I say you were born for this? Aria can only nod mutely against his broad chest, too overwhelmed for words, too giddy with disbelief and burgeoning joy. Is this really happening? Did she truly just bring an entire auditorium to its feet with her music? Her heart, her heritage on full display. Slowly, as if waking from a dream, Aria pulls back from Stallone's exuberant hug, scrubbing at her tear-streaked cheeks with the back of one hand, the other still clutching her violin in a white-knuckled grip. Her gaze darts to Harper, to Senor Ortiz, drinking in their damp, glowing faces like a balm, before finally landing on the one person she's studiously avoided until now. Wyatt stands stiffly at the edge of the milling crowd, his expression unreadable. Aria braces herself for a sneer, a cutting remark, some last-ditch attempt to diminish her triumph, but it never comes. Instead, Wyatt simply stares at her for a long, charged moment, something like resignation flickering in his pale eyes. Then, with a curt nod, he turns on his heel and walks away. Shoulders rigid beneath his expensive suit jacket, Aria watches him go. A tangle of emotions warring in her chest, pity and contempt, relief and a strange, aching sort of sorrow. But overriding it all is a bone-deep sense of vindication. She did it. She showed them all, not with fists or fury, but with the purity of her music, the strength of her spirit. And in that moment, Aria knows, with a sudden singing, certainty that this is only the beginning, that no matter what obstacles may come, what prejudice or hardship she may face, she will meet it all with her head high and her violin in hand, for she is Aria Hawkins, daughter of immigrants, child of adversity, and she has a song in her heart that will not be silenced, not now, not ever. In the aftermath of her stunning audition, Aria finds herself caught in a whirlwind of accolades and attention. Teachers who once dismissed her now clamor. to sing her praises. Students who snickered behind her back now angle for her favor. Even Principal Larson, notorious for his hands-off approach, pulls her aside to wax poetic about the prestige she's brought to the school. It's everything Aria ever dreamed of. Validation, respect, a chance to let her music shine. But beneath the shimmering veneer of triumph, doubt begins to fester like a splinter beneath the skin at night. Alone in her cramped bedroom, Aria stares at the cheap popcorn ceiling and wonders how long it will last. This heady rush of acceptance and approval. Will they still cheer for her when the novelty fades? When she's no longer the underdog darling of the moment, or will they remember that she's just Aria, the brown girl from the wrong side of town, with an accent in her voice and a target on her back? How long before they tire of her? Before the whispers start up again? The sidelong glances and snide remarks, putting her back in her place, reminding her of all the ways she doesn't belong. These are the fears that haunt her, in the small, snatched hours between rehearsals and reporters, when the stage lights dim and the fervor dies down, leaving her hollowed out and aching. A fraud in her own skin, she throws herself into preparation for the statewide concert, determined to prove that her success was no fluke. No one-hit wonder born of lucky breaks and affirmative action. She practices until her fingers cramp and her neck throbs, polishing and perfecting, honing her music to a razor's edge. But even as she pushes herself to new heights, Aria can feel exhaustion nipping at her heels, a bone-deep weariness that has nothing to do with lost sleep and everything to do with the weight of expectation, the pressure to be extraordinary, to blaze a trail for all the little brown girls who will come after her. It's a responsibility she never asked for, a mantle she fears she's not strong enough to bear. And with each passing day, the cracks in her facade grow a little wider, the mask of confident composure a little harder. To maintain, Harper is the first to notice. Of course she is. With her quiet understanding and keen-eyed concern, she corners Aria in the music room after yet another grueling rehearsal, brow furrowed and arms crossed. "Okay, spill," she demands without preamble, "and don't even think about telling me you're fine." I know a faker when I see one. Aria opens her mouth to protest, to insist that she's just tired, just stressed. But something in Harper's unwavering gaze stops the lie in its tracks. With a shuddering sigh, she sinks onto the worn piano bench, fingers knotted in her lap. "I don't know if I can do this." Harper. The confession spills out of her, small and scared and so painfully young. Everyone's counting on me, expecting so much. What if I let them down? What if, her voice cracks, chin dropping to her chest, what if they realize I'm not special after all, just a mariachi girl who got lucky, or Aria? Harper breathes, closing the distance between them in 2 quick strides. She wraps an arm around Aria's slumped shoulders, tugging her close. "Listen to me. Okay? Really listen." Aria gives a miserable nod, not trusting herself to speak. Harper takes a deep breath, as if steeling herself. "You are special, Aria Hawkins. So incredibly, unbelievably special. Not because of your music, though Lord knows that's a gift, but because of your heart, your courage. The way you stare down hate and hardship and dare to dream bigger." Harper's voice is fierce, unflinching, her grip on Aria's shoulders almost painfully tight. "You didn't get lucky. You worked your ass off. You earned every scrap of praise, every ounce of acclaim. And anyone who can't see that, who tries to tear you down or make you small, that's their failure, not yours." Aria lifts her head slowly, blinking hard against the hot sting of tears. "You really believe that?" she whispers. "Even when I don't, especially when you don't." Harper affirms, fire in her eyes and steel in her spine. "I'll believe enough for the both of us, until you're ready to see yourself the way I do." Something in Aria's chest cracks open at that, a dam bursting beneath the relentless flood of Harper's faith. With a muffled sob, she pitches forward into her friend's waiting arms, clutching desperately at the fabric of her sweater. As months of pent-up fear and frustration pour out of her, Harper just holds her through it, steady and strong, murmuring quiet words of comfort into the tousled curls of Arya's hair. They stay like that for a long time, huddled together on the hard piano bench, two girls against the world. But when Arya finally pulls back, scrubbing at her splotchy, tear-streaked cheeks, there's a new resolve kindling in her dark eyes, a flicker of the fire. "Harper so admires your right," she rasps, straightening her spine and squaring her narrow shoulders. "I can't control what other people think of me, how they choose to see me. All I can do is stay true to myself, to my music, and let the rest fall where it may." Harper grins at that. Wide and bright, damn straight chica, she chucks Arya playfully beneath the chin. "Now let's go show those pendejos at State what Arya Hawkins is really made of." Arya laughs, watery but genuine, feeling lighter than she has in weeks. "Come on then, Guerra." She stands, holding out a hand to pull Harper up with her. "We've got work to do." But even as they gather their things to leave, Arya's violin case bumping companionably against Harper's backpack, a sudden thought occurs to her, stalling her steps and furrowing her brow. "Hey, Harp," she ventures haltingly, as if afraid of the answer. "Have you heard from Sly recently, since the audition?" Harper pauses, lips pursing. "Actually, no," she admits, a tinge of concern bleeding into her tone. "I texted him a couple times, just to check in, but he hasn't gotten back to me." "Why? Have you?" Arya shakes her head, a worm of unease burrowing beneath her breastbone. "No, and he promised he'd help me prep for State. Give me some pointers on stage presence and all that, but it's been radio silence. She chews at her bottom lip. "I hope he's okay. I'm sure he's just busy," Harper soothes, though there's a furrow between her brows that wasn't there before. "You know how crazy his schedule can get. I bet he'll turn up any day now, ready to put you through your paces." Arya hums her agreement. But the worry lingers, a nagging whisper in the back of her mind. Stallone has been such a constant presence these last few months, a pillar of support and encouragement, that his sudden absence feels like a loss. Keenly felt. Still, there's nothing she can do about it now. Nothing but hope for the best and focus on the task at hand. With a mental shake, Arya pushes her unease aside and follows Harper out into the bustling hallway, determined to make the most of the days ahead. Unbeknownst to Arya, Stallone is facing struggles of his own. Half a world away, in a remote corner of the Andes Mountains, the tap-tap-tap of his cane echoes off the ancient stone as he limps his way into a crumbling monastery, sweat beading his brow and exhaustion dogging his steps. He's been tracking this lead for months, chasing whispers and rumors, fragmented tales of a lost symphony, written by a mad genius on his deathbed, if the stories are to be believed. The music is imbued with a power beyond imagining, a melody so hauntingly beautiful, so achingly pure, that it can bring even the most hardened soul to its knees. Stallone doesn't put much stock in ghost stories, but he knows the weight of a good myth, the way it can shape lives and inspire greatness. And if there's even a chance that this long-lost composition is real, he has to find it for Arya, for the world. "I've come a long way. Father," he addresses the wizened monk who meets him at the entrance to the reliquary, "I'm hoping you can help me. I'm looking for... I know what you seek, my son." The old man cuts him off, roomy eyes glinting with a knowing light. "But I fear you have made the journey in vain. The symphony of angels is not meant for mortal ears." But the monk holds up a gnarled hand, weathered and liver-spotted, his expression softening at the edges. "I understand your desire, your conviction that this music could change lives, enrich souls, but there are some mysteries that are best left hidden, some powers too great for any one man to wield. The symphony is one such power, a blessing and a burden, one I would not wish on anyone, least of all a child. The old priest's voice is heavy with sorrow, weighted by the ghosts of his own past. Stallone wants to argue, to demand answers, access, anything, but something in the monk's haunted gaze stops him short. You've seen it then. He ventures instead, heard it played once. The single word is a sigh, a confession and a warning all in one. Many, many years ago, when I was a young man, full of dreams and hubris, I thought I could harness the symphony's magic, bend it to my will. I was wrong. The old priest closes his eyes, shoulders slumping beneath the weight of memory. It consumed me. Body and soul left me hollow, half-mad, a shell. Of my former self, I spent decades rebuilding brick by brick, prayer by prayer, and even now, the scars remain. When he opens his eyes again, they are bright with unshed tears, pleading and plaintive. Let it go, my son. He urges, this quest of yours, before it destroys you, the way it almost destroyed me. There are some things in this world that are too beautiful to bear, too terrible to tame. The Symphony of Angels is one of them. Stallone stares at the old monk for a long moment, torn between frustration and a creeping sense of dread. He came so far, risked so much, all for the sake of a dream, a desperate hope that he could give Arya an edge, a weapon in her fight against the odds. But looking into the priest's haunted eyes, hearing the anguish in his voice, Stallone begins to wonder if some battles are better left unfought, some dreams unattained. Thank you, Father, he manages at last, throat tight and heart heavy, for your wisdom and your warning. I'll take it under advisement. The monk nods solemnly, reaching out to clasp Stallone's shoulder in a gesture of benediction. Go with God. My son, he murmurs, and may you find peace in the path you choose. With those parting words, he turns and shuffles back into the shadows of the monastery, leaving Stallone alone with his doubts and his disappointments, and the sinking realization that he may have failed Arya after all. The journey back from the Andes is a blur, a haze of long flights and lonely layovers. Stallone barely registers the passage of time, too caught up in his own churning thoughts. The weight of the old monk's warning sits heavy on his shoulders, a mantle of guilt and second-guessing. He should have known better, should have realized that some shortcuts aren't worth taking, some risks too great to bear. What kind of mentor is he to pin all his hopes on a fairy tale? A legend whispered in the dark. Arya deserves better than that. Better than a washed-up action star chasing ghosts and glory. She deserves someone who can guide her, support her, without resorting to cheap tricks and false promises. By the time Stallone stumbles through his front door, jet-lagged and heartsick, he's made up his mind. He'll call Arya first thing in the morning, apologize for his absence, his radio, silence, and then he'll step back, give her the space she needs to shine on her own, without the shadow of his expectations clouding her path. But as he's shrugging out of his coat, a flash of color catches his eye. There, on the hall table, sits a package small and square, wrapped in brown paper and twine. Frowning, Stallone picks it up, turning it over in his hands. There's no return address, no postmark or stamp, just his name, scrawled in spidery script across the front. Curiosity. Piqued, he carries the parcel into his study, settling heavily into the leather armchair by the fire. With careful fingers, he unwinds the twine, peels back the paper, and feels his breath catch in his throat. Nestled in a bed of tissue paper is a violin. Bow, but not just any bow. Stallone has seen his fair share of fine instruments, handled Strads and Guarneris worth millions. But this is something else entirely. The bow is a work of art, sleek and elegant, crafted from a single piece of gleaming ebony. The frog is inlaid with mother-of-pearl delicate swirls and whirls that catch the firelight, and along the length of the stick, winding like a ribbon of gold, are words engraved in flowing script. To Arya, may your music always find its way home. Love Abuela Stallone stares at the inscription, his heart in his throat. Aria's grandmother, the woman who taught her to love music, who gave her the violin that started it all. He never met her, never even knew her name, but holding this bow in his hands, feeling the weight of her love, her legacy. It's like a piece of her is here, whispering in his ear. He doesn't know how long he sits there, cradling the precious gift in his weathered palms. Minutes, hours, time seems to lose all meaning in the face of such beauty, such history. But eventually, reluctantly, he sets the bow back in its tissue nest and reaches for the note that fluttered out alongside it. The paper is thin, almost translucent, covered in the same spidery handwriting as the package. Sly, I know I have no right to ask favors, no claim on your time or attention, but I find myself in desperate need of your help. Aria is special, so very special, and I fear for her, for the battles she will face, the scorn and prejudice that will dog her steps. She has a fire in her. Sly, a fierce, bright flame that refuses to be quenched, but even the strongest spirit can be broken by cruelty and hate. I am an old woman now. My hands are still and my voice silent. I cannot be the champion she needs, the shield against the gathering storm. But you can. You have a strength about you. Sly, a goodness. I saw it in the way you looked at my Aria, the way you lifted her up, made her believe in herself. In that shining moment on stage, you gave her a gift beyond measure, the gift of confidence, of knowing her own worth. Please, Sly, I beg of you, don't let that be the end of it. Stand by her side, be the mentor I cannot, the friend she so desperately needs. Help her navigate the treacherous waters ahead. And when the time comes, when she is ready to fly on her own, give her this bow, this piece of her history, and tell her that her abuela loves her, that she believes in her with all her heart. I know I am asking the impossible, putting a burden on your shoulders that you never asked for, but I am desperate and so very afraid. For my Aria, for the light that shines so bright within her, be her lighthouse. Sly, her safe harbor in the storm, and know that you have the gratitude of a tired old woman who loves her granddaughter more than life itself. Gracias from the bottom of my heart for everything. Stallone finishes reading, blinking hard against the sting of tears, his throat tight and his heart full to bursting. In all his years, all his adventures, he's never felt a responsibility so heavy, a duty so profound. But looking at the bow, gleaming in its nest of tissue, he knows he cannot refuse, cannot turn his back on Aria, on the trust placed in him by a woman he never even met. He will be her lighthouse, her champion, and her friend. He will stand by her side through the tempest and the squall, and when the time is right, he will place this bow in her hands and tell her the story of the grandmother who loved her enough to reach across time and entrust her dreams to a stranger. But not yet, not now, when Aria is still so young, so unsure. She doesn't need the weight of history bearing down on her slender shoulders, doesn't need the pressure of a legacy. She's not yet ready to claim for now. Stallone will tuck the bow away. Hide it somewhere safe, a secret burning bright in the chambers of his heart, and he will be there for her in all the little ways that count. The late-night pep talks and the early morning drills, the shoulder to cry on and the hand to high-five. He will be the mentor she deserves, the friend she needs, until the day comes when she's ready to stand on her own, ready to face the world, with her head held high and her music singing in her soul. In the weeks and months following the state competition, life settles into a new rhythm for Aria One that is both strange and achingly familiar. There are still stares and whispers, still moments of casual cruelty and careless disdain, but there is also respect. Grudging, at times tentative, at others but respect nonetheless. Her classmates no longer look through her, as if she is nothing more than a smudge on their privileged lives. They see her now, really see her, the girl behind the music, the soul beneath the skin. Some even venture to speak to her, to ask about her playing, her inspiration, her dreams for the future. And though the interactions are often stilted, laced with the awkwardness of the unaccustomed, Aria cherishes each one, a fragile bloom of hope, pushing through the cracks of old resentments. But it's not just her peers who have changed. The faculty, too, seem to regard her with new eyes. Mr. Nash no longer critiques her so harshly, his barbs blunted by a burgeoning appreciation for her skill, her dedication. Even Principal Larson, once so aloof and unapproachable, now nods to her in the halls, a glimmer of something like pride softening his stern facade. And then there's Harper dear, stalwart Harper, who has been by her side through thick and thin. Aria's rock, her safe harbor in the tempest of change. Their friendship has only grown stronger, tempered by shared trials and triumphs, a bond that feels unbreakable, forged in the fire of adversity. Yes, life is different now, in ways both big and small, but perhaps the biggest change of all is the one within Aria herself. She walks taller these days, her spine straight and her shoulders squared, no longer braced for the next blow, the next cruel word, or cutting glance. She has proven herself on the grandest stage, in front of the harshest critics, and she has emerged victorious, unscathed and uncompromising. She knows her own worth now, her own strength, and it is a heady thing. This newfound confidence, this quiet, unshakable belief in herself, in her music, in the power of her dreams. Oh, she still has doubts, still has moments of fear and uncertainty, but they no longer consume her, no longer define her. She is more than the sum of her insecurities, more than the product of others' perceptions. She is Aria Hawkins, musician, dreamer, fighter, and she will not be silenced, not by prejudice or poverty, not by hate or hardship. She will play on fierce and free. For all the world to hear, it is with this newfound sense of self, this hard-won resilience, that Aria approaches the final hurdle of her high school career, the senior showcase. A chance to perform one last time for her classmates, her teachers, her community. A chance to leave her mark on the place that has shaped her for better and for worse. She chooses her piece carefully, a haunting melody full of longing and loss, hope and healing. A song that speaks to the journey she has taken, the battles she has fought, the scars she bears, both seen and unseen. And as she takes the stage, violin in hand, Stallone's talisman nestled close to her heart, she feels a sense of peace settle over her, a bone-deep certainty that this is where she belongs, who she is meant to be. She plays with everything she has, every ounce of passion, every shred of skill. She pours her heart into the music, her pain and her joy, her sorrow and her strength. And as the final note fades into silence, she knows with a clarity that borders on revelation that this is only the beginning, the first step on a journey that will take her far beyond these walls, these narrow minds and narrower expectations. She is Aria Hawkins, and she has a voice, a vision, a fire in her soul that will not be quenched, not by fear, not by doubt, not by anything or anyone. And as she takes her bow, head high, eyes shining, she hears it rising above the applause, the cheers and whistles, a single voice, rough with emotion, ringing with pride. Brava, Mija, brava. It is Senor Ortiz, the quiet custodian who has watched her struggle and strive, fail and flourish all these long years. His weathered face is streaked with tears, his calloused hands clapping as if he will never stop. And in that moment, Aria feels her own eyes well, her own heart swell with gratitude, with love for this man, for her grandmother, for Harper and Stallone, For everyone who has believed in her, even when she couldn't believe in herself, she raises her violin, touches bow, to string and plays one last song, for all of them, for herself, a song of thanks, of triumph, of hope, unending, unconquerable, and as the music rises, sweeping and soaring, filling every corner of the auditorium, every crack and crevice of her heart, Aria knows with a bone-deep certainty that this is only the beginning, that there are more songs to be played, more battles to be fought, more hearts to be healed. But for now, in this shining, imperfect moment, she is exactly where she is meant to be, doing exactly what she is meant to do, and nothing, not prejudice or poverty, not hate or hardship, can take that away from her. Not now. Not ever is there a place for beauty in a world that only sees division. Yes, oh yes, there is. And Aria Hawkins, musician, dreamer, fighter, is living proof. If this story moved you, like, share and subscribe.